Welcome back. Yes, indeed, Mr. Idy Enang joins us. He wears many caps, but yes, a captain of industry, brand specialist. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Thank you.
Well, we just now, speaking with Mr. Abakubaha, he talked about many of those industries and how they could play their role if government adopts the right strategy or policy to ensure that the country moves forward. But you've also been observing what's playing itself out. Where do you think we're doing or getting it wrong that we need to correct?
Very interesting. I think, first of all, what really, kind of irks me is that we're focusing a bit more on the hardware and we're leaving the software, and I'll explain. There isn't any communication around the people and what we need to make happen. You see, everything we've always been talking about, the budgets, we call numbers, but it takes people to drive those numbers. And I haven't seen where we've actually focused a lot of attention how, the values, the norms, the shared values, call it social capital. It's missing. And that for me is the engine, it's a glue that can galvanize the totality of Nigerians and the agenda. So if you ask me, I would actually go more on that as a huge deficit that is missing today. And relative to speaking to, it has to be this policy, that policy. Yeah, granted, government's role is to enable policies, but who are the guys that are going to act out the scripts? And that's what's missing today.
You mean the implementation aspect of it?
Yes, even from the point of creation, it's all about having, social capital is something quite new. And if you think about it, it all brings everything together. It involves bonds, involves bridges, involves links. I mean, the bonds part is, you talk about family, bridges, we talk about working together, peers, we're in all different sectors, and there's something that brings us together. So today, the Nigeria that you see, that you and I sit with, if I were to throw an analogy, guys, this is not, would any of you buy Nigeria today if it was a business or a brand? Would any of you invest your money in it, the way you see it?
Maybe when they finish the management meeting, they can decide.
No, but seriously, that's the kind of question we need to ask ourselves. And then the way back is to say, what do we need to do to make this entity work better?
Would that be what? Social reengineering?
Yeah, that's a process. We need a process like social reengineering. You can bring in social mobilization, and we just need to start letting Nigerians have a peep of what it takes to be a Nigerian, what we expect of a Nigerian, and these are the values, these are the things we share. Right now, we don't have it. Our value system is out of the way. And we are focusing, I'm sorry to say, I think we major so much in minors, but the real gravitas has to do with the people. So I find that a bit amiss, and if there's anything to help, solidify that would be great. I'll give you, in the little estate I stay, there's a school, a grammar school there, at 8 a.m. When I'm getting back from dropping our daughter in school, you find students way out, still strolling. Those students are going to school.
8 a.m.
Past 8, you find them strolling. And trust me, guys, that's 20 years down the road. What are you going to tell them about coming early? What timeliness is all about?
Not that the school resumes by 9.
No, the school resumes, no school resumes by 9. You understand what I mean? You'll find as early as 7:30, the teachers are standing out there with a long cane and just hitting the ground. And even down the stretch, you find some strolling while some are running. It just tells you that back home, it is not seen as a way of life. So what do we have as our DNA? You can call the budget in any form, strip it. Those are the fundamentals we need to start that journey afresh and create the future now.
That's the people.
From a people standpoint. And let's start doing things. I mean, I grew up as a young boy, seeing ads. In those days, don't drink when you are driving. You will have those comical ads in early 70s. The highway code was known to all, because even as a child, I could see it on television and I could tell you, look left, look right, and left again before you make an advance. These days, nothing like that happens. We need to take education down to that kind of level where media, communication, messaging begins to get into the psyche, and we run that in parallel with whatever we're doing as the hard stuff.
You know, I was speaking with someone who's been in government, and some of this, you just raised, we had a discussion talking about sometimes the attitude of people. Now, you just talked about children who are still in school and the kind of attitude they already have. And sometimes even the parents, they come into your office without making appointments. Everyone believes that he or she can badge in on you, you know, truncating what you should be doing for the system or for the process.
Absolutely.
And some other time, some people trying, as simple as jumping the line, you know, in other places. Time was when we knew that all of these were bad.
We're wrong.
But
yeah, you've actually nailed it. I mean, frankly, these children will grow up, and become youngsters. They'll grow up becoming men and women. And what are you going to tell them?
I want to put your brand expertise cap on now and see the possibility of rebranding Nigeria, because the question you asked, if anyone was going to put his money, if Nigeria were to be a commodity, still rings in my head. How can we make it something lucrative and beautiful, enticing? That should be the word.
Yeah. Well, that takes me to, I mean, first of all, let me put it this way. Commodity wouldn't be the way to go, because commoditization has only one thing: it's pricing. You know, that's what brings it. So, and if you're looking at a brand, he has to personify something. A brand is a personification of somebody. You know, you walk through the door, you think about any brand today. You know, I can talk about brands in my previous life. Coca-Cola, for instance, if we were to walk through that door, what comes to your mind? So if a Nigerian is going to walk through that door, what really comes to your mind? I've had the privilege of working across various organizations and albeit various entities and cultures. You know, one thing is very challenging. When you are a Nigerian and you go work outside as an expatriate, the minute you step in, people already start thinking, oh, he's a Nigerian, and all kinds of stereotypes. And, you know, I've said that to my friends and a lot of colleagues, that I haven't seen one Nigerian from a private sector who has gone out to work and has come back with his head bowed. No, the heads are always high. You know why? These seeming challenges that we have here that pull us back and hold us don't apply in those climes. And Nigerians fly. They do so well outside, whether in Africa or outside of Africa. Nigerian expats are probably the best. Now, I said that to say this. If we look at Nigeria state, Nigeria brand, we need to say to ourselves, what do we need to beautify it? And everything starts with the positioning. How do you want your brand to be positioned? So what do we want to be known? Now, positioning stays at the core of it, and there are different, it's like the wheel, the spokes of the wheel. So you have different strands. And that's where, you know, in typical brand typology, you'll have advertising, you have media, you have all of those things as the spokes you have in the wheel. And each one has to drive from the essence that you want to create. So what is the essence of being a Nigerian? Who are we? And if we start from there and we start using the vehicles, I mean your good selves, media, we can start creating cartoon characters that, let's infuse it. And I think the government can help that in setting that in place. But it's not all about the government. It also has to come back to the individual.
I think once the government tried to do something along that line, I recall that a former Minister for Information, Professor Dora Akunyili, God rest her soul, she tried to do something about, you know, defining who we are. And she, you know, she launched a competition where people had to come up with slogans. And we came up with good people, great nation. It would seem we've discarded that now. Do you think we should be revisiting it?
You know, well, funny enough, the late Dora, God rest her soul, she was a very good supporter. I sat on the council of APCON, and funny enough, my first meeting with her was actually at the institute of our registrar then, Alhaji Garba Kankarofi, took me to our office. And the first thing he said was, Madam, this is one person who doesn't agree with you. And that was how we met, you know, first time. Then I had to, first time in person, but we had a backtrack from NAFDAC. And I said to her, Madam, sloganeering is not branding. Good people, great nation. That process was great, but you left good is subjective. I said you've not defined what good is. Great is something that you can't leave to subjectivity. So great people, great nation would have been a more campaignable platform, because when you talk about greatness, it's evident to all. But good is relative. So when you play on the good, what is good? That I feed you every morning, I'll be a good man, but you don't know how I get the money. But if I sit back and say, who are these great men that we have? Today we talk about our founding fathers. We talk about Nnamdi Azikiwe, Chief Obafemi, late Obafemi and Tafawa Balewa. We call them great men. We don't
but
call
that
them
process, I mean, you, like you rightly said, the process itself, you couldn't fault. You might have faulted the outcome of the process, but the process itself, the fact that it involved Nigerians, should we be visiting it again?
Yes, we should. But it starts from, to be quite honest, someone needs to set the tone. Mm-hmm. And that someone has the overall responsibility to say, this is the direction, this is the picture.
Politicians?
No, when you get into, politicians are Nigerians, politicians are human beings. I think it's going back to the real structure, which is about the family. We need to go back, because even within the strength of family, there are certain things that are missing now, where accountability is missing. If I'm your sister or brother and I come home and you know that I do not earn X amount and I bring a car, there's no sense of accountability. But if something out there says, we are great people, we are a great nation, this is what greatness is. And you start taking greatness in little bits and pieces. So the child walking on the streets knows that you can't afford being timely, going to school on time, waking up on time is a symbol and a sign of greatness. Then you begin to imbibe it, becomes part of your daily routine, and it builds up to that factor. So that's where it actually sits.